I'd like use 2 through 33, sound 1A through 7. On deck, stand by Q actors. Electrics, kill the blue run lights, please. Like you 2 and sound 1A. Go.
From Arizona Theater Company, this is Hang in Focus with your host, Sean Daniels.
As someone that grew up in Arizona, it's a great way for us to be able to share the work that we do worldwide.
And featuring co-host Bragg.
I was like, that's my partner, y'all.
Streaming live from the State Theater of Arizona.
So let's do it. Let's really use this moment to re-envision ourselves.
Welcome to Hang in Focus, live with Sean Daniels. On today's show, Sean welcomes the artists, makers, and mentors of CoronaLogs, a special project between Mesa Community College and Arizona Theater Company.
Being able to quarantine is a privilege. Many of us are frontline workers.
It's been a month now, and we're all tired. We're exhausted.
I work online now because no one follows the rules, and I guess fate wants me to stare at the computer screen for everything I do.
Fun. I quit all my jobs.
What?
Does that mean you now have time to play in my other campaigns now?
Pandemic. Geez, Allie, it's all a hoax. Come on. The flu kills more people every year. Figure it out. Don't be a sheep.
10% would be 43.72.
I would like to speak to your manager.
I would like to speak with your manager.
What? Well, I mean, I can see it happening all around us, but I've been so numb that I can't feel it. Or anything, really, right now.
Why aren't people wearing their masks? I mean, I might look young and healthy, but in reality, I'm not. I'm sick.
We will resist.
I can't breathe.
When will it end?
I'm busy.
And this is stolen land.
Black Lives Matter.
And we will have peace.
Look at that. Look at that amazing new opening.
I know. We're upgrading, y'all.
Oh, that's amazing. I just want to give a shout out to Will Rogers and Chanel Bragg, who helped produce this show and made that opening possible. That's an amazing new opening.
Thank you. We're really excited. We have had so much content between March and now. We've had about 43 different episodes of Hang in Focus to date. And so we were able to pull from all those different shows with all the wonderful guests that we've had over the last, 8 or so plus months. And so we're just excited to show you what we've been up to.
Yeah, no, that's phenomenal. That's phenomenal. So how are you, Chanel? How's your week going?
It's going really, really well. I'm excited though. Even though we just came back from a holiday, I feel like December to January is awesome because then you literally have all the holidays back to back to back. And now Martin Luther King Day gives us another day off. But then after that, we don't have a day off for quite some time. So I'm going to enjoy myself on Monday. Do you have any plans?
We, we have a 2.5-year-old. So every day off is like, all right, this is a day for adventure to be able to take her out somewhere and to do something. So that'll be it. We'll take her somewhere to watch butterflies or run in the many parks that are in our neighborhood.
I love that. Well, we have a very special presentation that we do want all of our patrons to take a look at. So stay tuned on Monday. We do have a special tribute to Dr. Martin Luther King featuring one of the shows that we've done in the past that featured him as a central character. So we're really excited to share that with you all on Monday. So look for it.
Great. So we're going to talk today about the CoronaLogs.
Yes.
Yeah, which really is kind of one of your first things that you put in place upon arriving. So for those of us at home, can you tell us what was the inspiration for it? And then what is it?
Well, I was cracking up because when I first got hired here, Sean was like, we're going to have you do something, which I thought was great. And so I was like, well, during, COVID-19 and all the different beautiful affinity spaces that I belong to one in particular with Ruth Sager, who is one of our guests today. And Ruth and I were a part of this wonderful, beautiful group, and I can have her explain a little bit more about it when we bring her on. But we were bouncing different ideas off the wall of how to be creative at this time, where we were just trying to figure out what was the future of the arts or what was the future of our nation at the time, especially like back in between March and May. And we created this safe space where we were a creative group. We had like a synchronized swimming routine that we were trying to do through the Zoom windows. Like it was a lot of really cool and unique projects. And the CoronaLogs was discussed between Ruth and I, like, we should do something to chronicle this time. I think it's real easy to want to run away from the subject matter, but in truth, this is what we're experiencing right now as a people in the world, not even just like domestically, but in the world. We're all feeling something at the exact same time, and how we're navigating that, and all the beautiful stories of like in Italy of all the neighbors like playing music together. And so it really did breathe that type of energy when we were creating in that other space, and we didn't get a chance to put it up anywhere. And we didn't get a chance to develop the idea. And so I was like, okay, well, who knows? The universe will open up an opportunity for us to do it. So then when I got hired here, Sean was like, Chanel, we're going to have you do something. And I was like, I have just the idea. I called my friend Ruth, and history was made. And so now we have a beautiful partnership with the Maricopa Community Colleges. We started off with Mesa, but we have 2 more colleges that are on board to do another part of the CoronaLogs this spring with Glendale Community College and Paradise Valley Community College. And I'm excited about what this means for our institutions moving forward as the State Theater of Arizona. So I'm really excited, and I can't wait to bring on our guests to talk more about it.
So yeah, so walk us through the process of what happened. You have this idea, right? You talk to Ruth, and then what happens next?
So Ruth is incredible. In fact, I'm going to bring on just Ruth. Why don't I do that? Ruth, can you go ahead and turn on your camera, my dear? This is Ruth Sager, everyone. You want to do a brief introduction of yourself, Ruth, before we jump on in?
Most certainly. Ruth Sager, I'm the production manager over at Mesa Community College, and privileged to work with the theater department in creating the CoronaLogs. I'm an Arizona native, have been around the community for quite some time, getting to play on stages as well as off stage, which is where I had the opportunity to meet Chanel. Gosh, it feels like decades ago.
We've known each other for a long time. And Ruth and I have also worked together in other spaces. We worked for Free Arts for Abused Children together, because Sean knows about my work with that group too. And so it's just been really great to have had this years-long relationship with Ruth and creating also with Ruth. So he wants to know what our process was.
Yeah, so Chanel has this idea. She gets hired. I say, like, let's do something. She calls you. What happens next?
So what happens next is we pulled together all of the stakeholders over at Mesa Community College to say, we want to try something out. We understand that ATC wants to look at working with junior colleges across Arizona. So let's try it out at MCC. And then from there, we can take our pilot and start to modify it for each of the campuses that we might be partnering with in the future. So this iteration took the form of an 8-week class where students, most of whom are performers, very few of them feel comfortable in writing. We're tasked with really chronicling life experiences from the year of being in the pandemic. And some of that is the nitty-gritty, real hard stuff that we've all experienced. And some of it's the more lighthearted things, like how does one take their regular D&D group that meets on a Thursday night in their living room to the virtual realm of Zoom. So we spent about 4 weeks developing content. And then after those 4 weeks, began deploying equipment, meaning GoPros, microphones, and any other gear that might be needed to shoot these productions in the homes of our students. Students got usually about 2 days to capture all of their footage before we received everything back in-house, and then had our technicians take all of that footage and cull it together before we handed it over to Will Rogers on the ATC team to sort of unify all of the voices and put together our final product that was shared back in December.
So yeah, a huge undertaking for sure. And I just want to give special props to Ruth. She was an incredible stage manager / production manager for this entire process and really bring it together. I also want to thank Ruth because right now, as we speak, Mesa Community College is like the flagship of this project, right? And so they have now figured out a way to open up their resources to the other colleges to be able to use. So not only is this a cross collaboration between our 2 institutions, but also really unifying the Maricopa Community Colleges as a unit. And so their students are going to actually come and use the resources and materials and the video editing equipment and everything from Mesa Community College, which is really exciting. So I don't know if that's ever been done before.
Yes, I will say that we like to lend things to sister colleges, but usually our programming overlaps in a way that makes it really hard. And it is lining up beautifully for us to be able to be of service in the spring.
I also would like to bring up too, can we talk about the other departments that were involved in helping us, like the ambulance department and all the other departments that were involved in helping us with some of our lecturing, and then we'll bring on the rest of our guests.
Most certainly. So when we were talking about the year of COVID in general, we were really aware of all the essential workers and frontline individuals that are out there putting their lives on the line. Mesa Community College has a very deep collaboration between our theater and film arts department and our paramedic department. Typically, each spring, we send our students off to learn scenarios that they then perform for all of the EMT students, and those EMT students have to go through 2 days of simulated 12-hour calls. We also bring in our design team to make really icky effects. Some of it might be like gastrointestinal grossness, and you really don't want to walk down that hallway all day when that scenario is happening, but those paramedics certainly have to be put through the ringer before they walk into a home and are helping a community member that is in need. So when we were putting together our guest list and really thinking about who are the subject matter experts in the community that we wanted to speak to, aside from the expertise of ATC staff and playwrights, we really wanted to get those folks that were out on the lines talking to us about what are the changes? What are the new things that we're seeing in the community of medicine that could factor into the conversations and the stories that we wanted to have within our iteration of CoronaLogs?
So yes,
That's
a huge
phenomenal.
project.
Yeah, yeah.
A huge project.
And do we know, I mean, just like scope wise, like, is this a bigger project than you all have tackled in terms of with the students and with a regional theater, or is this about the size of projects you do?
Well, size is a variable. We have never taken on devising in this way. So putting something start to finish up is not something I know has happened on the campus. And I will say to do it in 8 weeks is phenomenal. My background is doing devised work with vulnerable populations. So I know what it feels like. Usually we have a little bit more time, and also doing it in a virtual environment was completely different.
So, so before we bring the kids out, I'm just curious from the two of you, like, what did it feel like to do it? I mean, how, now that we're on the other end of it, what was like the emotional experience? Clearly it's a huge lift. You made it happen. You're unstoppable. But what was kind of like the emotion going through it?
Well, for me, it was a passion project, right? It was something that Ruth and I actually wanted to see actualized. So from that standpoint, it was like, wow, we had this great idea and we were so excited that it got to live. It had a life outside of the group that we were first talking about it. And not only did it live but we didn't expect it to live in this way, right? As grandiose as it did, and affecting so many of the lives of the different students that have been involved. Even just in those beginning sessions of just hearing everyone's pitch of what they wanted their piece to potentially be about, right? And it definitely evolved throughout the 8 weeks of the program. But there were so many stories, some that actually didn't even make it into our presentation, that I was just like, wow, what an incredible perspective. I would not have even thought about having that perspective during COVID. And so I just think that it allowed me to understand in a very human way all the different ways that we're all coping with what's going on right now.
Yeah. And on a personal level, I think that, Chanel hit it on the head, the notion of a passion project. The space that Chanel was in with me when COVID first hit was jokingly called Apocalypse Now Creative Response, because it was all of these artists that were really just kind of losing our brains and needed a safe environment to say, all right, what's happening in your life? What sort of fun can we have this Sunday? And sure, today we're going to do synchronized swimming. Next week, we're going to do some beat poetry. Who knows? Maybe we're making a cabaret. Each week was very fun, and I think kept some of the hope alive inside of me. And then for all of this to come full circle in the fall, it was so rewarding to watch our students that I've sat by and watched them have to be, I would say, agile this past year, both in their academic environment, their work environments, their creative environments, and to see them tackle something that some in the room even, never thought that they would be able to put pen to paper. And some of the work that they created was the most heavy hitting. So it was incredibly rewarding just to witness personal as well as the growth of the students that are in the room with us today.
For sure. And we have another one of our wonderful professors. We have Adriana Diaz. If I could bring on Adriana, just turn on your camera for just a moment. Hello, hello. If you want to unmute yourself and do a brief little introduction.
Hello, I'm Adriana Diaz. I am faculty and staff at Mesa Community College, and I run the costume shop, and I also teach a number of classes there.
And Adriana was really instrumental in helping us with a lot of the different vision boards, and there's lots of different things. Could you talk a little bit about that for a moment?
Yeah, so I was brought in during the process to kind of work with the students on figuring out how to visualize their works in like a way of what the exercise that we did was we kind of found the world of the play images, and we talked about the global world of what CoronaLogs is, and then went down into doing mood boards for what the world of their individual plays were. So kind of what images spoke to the play, how or not, because at the time they didn't really even have pieces. So it was really just finding those inspiring images and what makes an inspiring image, and how they link together was kind of our vernacular that we went through. So yeah.
Awesome. So I want to bring on some of the other staff members that we have with us today, and that's Tyler Furry. Did I say that accurately? I hope I did. Tyler, go ahead and turn on your camera. And also we have Josh Hunts. You can also come on and turn on your camera.
Hello.
Hello. Oh yes, Josh is here audibly today. So he's going to be that wonderful deep voice echoing off the walls. But if the both of you could just take a moment, I'll start off with you, Josh, and just talk a little bit about your process in the CoronaLogs as well.
Sure. So I'm kind of the head of all things technical for the MCC Theater, and my role in this project was to be one of the video editors. I kind of shot a couple of things on campus. We brought in Tiara and a couple of other students to film sort of the bookending and interspersed pieces, and I was in charge of doing that, and then also editing a couple of pieces as well alongside Tyler.
Awesome. And Tyler, if you want to do a brief introduction to yourself as well.
Hi, I've been working with MCC for several years, and I usually work with the music theater department mostly, but since we have kind of like merged the music theater and theater departments a little bit, I'm doing a lot more work with the theater. And I originally was slated to do a little bit more work on CoronaLogs, but then I got in with other projects that we were doing, and I ended up only really working with one. But I did help Josh do some of that filming, and kind of I was in a couple of Zoom meetings where we tried to kind of coach the students into getting a little bit more like screenplay-esque type scripts versus like traditional theater. But yeah, it was a fun process. I was really glad to be part of it.
Well, thank you. So we have a lot of other members that we would love to introduce you to that were in the ensemble. But just really quickly, while I still have the faculty here, can we just talk about, as a cohesive unit, what was like a triumph that you felt that we really achieved with this piece? And what was something that you learned from it that maybe we can do better the next time we do this piece, or something like it?
That's a good question, Chanel. There's a big part of me that's like, oh, I wish I had been thinking about that more. There is, I think a triumph is actually the content. You know, I will say that I watched everything quite a few times, especially in the 7 days leading up to airing everything. And I was moved sitting down and actually watching it on opening night, and realizing how powerful each of the pieces were, and not even realizing it, like being it so deeply ingrained, having it so close to my face that I didn't see how overarchingly beautiful what we created was. which might have been maybe what we can do better next time as far as getting the opportunity to slow down the process a little more so that we are mindfully moving versus saying we've got this scaffold and these deadlines and let's figure it out and let's meet it. But how are we really allowing ourselves to find our footing in each of these different steps of the production process?
Definitely. Adriana?
I think there's something really like I do agree with you, Ruth, that if we had been able to kind of lengthen the process a little bit to you know, I think that would have been great. But at the same time, there's just something about, especially for students, and I know they're about to come on, and there's some that I'm thinking about in particular, that if you give them too much time, it doesn't help them. But actually that quick deadline and the fact that we were saying, just get the scaffolding up, you can come back to it later, we're gonna just move for it, that is actually in community college, I feel like that is so important actually, in learning that skill of like, I'm gonna do this and move forward, and you know, and keep building, because that sense of perfectionism will, as an artist, that will hold you back so quickly than anything else. And if you give somebody too much time sometimes, so there's something that is actually really lovely about how quickly they were able to work, and the fact that they produced such amazing things in the short amount of time they had. You know, that's one thing in general that one of the reasons why I love working in this department and love working with our students is that in general is always the case, where I go, man, like, you know, I could have so much more time on a project and they get a little bit less time because we got to fit it into a semester. And the amount of things that always comes out of the classroom is just always amazing. I'm always really amazed by our students. So I think there's parts where, you know, a longer process could have really, you know, been nice, but at the same time, it was kind of nice that you were saying, just get the scaffolding up, you know?
I think there's like a great Russian saying that for a great production, you need a good idea and not enough time. And I feel like there's something to be said for that, where it's just like, yep, you know, we gotta go. Don't overthink it, right? Just do it. Just put it out there.
Well, I think this is a perfect time to bring on the rest of our ensemble. So if you could please turn on your cameras. I'm really excited. Yes, hello. These are the real stars of the evening. Hi, Robert. And hi, Nick. And they were a part of our ensemble. And we would like to talk about their process, you know, as students, and what it was like being a part of like this collaboration with ATC. So what was it like having lecturers come in? How did it help improve your writing? But first, give us a little bit about yourself, what year you are in your study, and then what your piece was. And I'll start off with Nick.
Hi, I'm Nick. This is my third and final year here at MCC. I'm graduating this semester. I wrote Groundhog Day, and then I performed in Empathy and Envy, and then I did Thursday Night D&D. I'm pretty sure those are the two that I think that's everything. Yes. Yeah.
Great. And Robert?
Hello. Let's see if I can put a number to it. I feel like the eternal college student. I've been here a while, like 5 or 6 years, which I wasn't planning on, but that's just how it happened. So, and I wrote for the CoronaLogs journal and the regular Thursday night D&D game, which I was also in both of those. Yeah, not missing a question, am I?
No. So what was it like working with the ATC staff? So just to give context to everyone. So Ruth runs a very tight ship, and we had production meetings every single week. And at those production meetings predominantly were myself and then Jasmine Roth, our director of education. And then Will would pop in from time to time. And we would get together weekly to kind of track how everybody was doing and how the progress was going, but also to schedule our lecturers. So we had a great deal of ATC staff that were involved, and we have a little bit of a package so you can actually see your ATC staff in live and in action with the CoronaLogs. So if everybody can turn off your cameras for just a moment, and you're going to see this cool package.
Welcome to our room. Thank you for joining us this evening. I'm going to ask you to unmute. That might help you. Maybe, maybe not.
See, what's crazy is right now, because we are so insular in our homes with our other people, that it feels like there's a lack of community. But actually, your piece is proving that to be the opposite.
Trust your instincts and your experiences, and trust that what you have to say and that your voice really, really matters.
Where does it really start and where does it really end? Because it's easy to upload the front to warm us up, and it's easy to just keep going after you know it's over. And you know in your heart when it ends, and you're like, oh crap, it's over, but I'm still going.
Something I like to do with actors when I'm feeling stuck in something I'm writing is giving them a starting line and an ending line and see how they get between those two pillars that I know as the playwright and the storyteller need to be met, but I'm not quite sure what the minutia might be. And
whatever like simple thing that you think might have already been said has not been said the way you can say it. That's the most important thing I can think of.
So you should always be asking yourself, is this the most creative way I can tell this story? How else could I tell this story?
And then a discovery might be made that is like, oh, that's actually more interesting than the line that I wrote next. Or oh, we still need the line I wrote next.
Sometimes we feel like when we write a character that we're taking like personal responsibility and everybody's going to think it's us, and that freaks us out. And that kind of makes us run away from our choices. And so, we have to lean into her as her own character with her own issues, separate from oneself. And I think that's a really essential part.
Started uncertain and grew to be something very tragic, chaotic, and hectic. And really think about, what sounds, when you watch a scary movie, what are they using? A lot of the time it's the music turning scary, right? You can tell with the heartbeat that something's about to get really chaotic.
I really believe in people, our time is limited. We have a million things we can be doing. We can be hanging out with our friends and we can be seeing other plays and we have jobs. And to invite somebody to spend time with your work, to spend money, and time is actually the most costly thing you can ask of someone. I always feel like you should really have something to say.
What are we on the precipice of? And don't be afraid of it. What could it be?
Okay, so when you're in this, you're in it, right? And you cannot always see outside of yourself. Sometimes sometimes you need that because you need to be in it. And sometimes you need an outside perspective, right? So the other day I was working on something, I was really happy with it, but I was like, it's just not right. And I showed it to Chanel and her note was, just start 1 minute into it.
We've heard the same voices a million times over and over and over. And what we haven't heard from is from people of color, from queer people, from people with disabilities, from people with different income classes. And so I just think a lot of people don't think that what their experiences are worth talking about. And I actually think that they really are.
I was like, damn it. She just fixed it. I should have been able to do that. But literally just starting a minute into it, starting in the middle of the action, basically. I didn't need all that stuff over there.
So that's what kept bringing to me. I was like, okay, for sure. I keep hearing community over and over and over again.
I only said that to just root for you a little bit instead in terms of saying you're on to something in telling that story.
I'm just really passionate about all of your pieces. I'm genuinely excited about it.
Oh, wow. I'm so glad that you guys got to see that. and I need to turn on my camera. And feel free to turn on your cameras back on. So it was just nice to be able to show how our staff interacted every single week with our students here at Mesa Community College, and how much I learned too, just being a fly on the wall, listening to those lectures outside of the ones that I helped deliver as well. So just from our students for a moment, and of course the staff, if you'd like to also chime in, but what was that like? Did you feel like having industry professionals in the room really helped guide you at all? Or like, what was your experience with that, with having mentors come into the space?
I at least thought it was, at least personally with my pieces, I thought it was amazing. I like Ruth was talking about, I had not touched playwriting with a 6-foot pole in my entire life. It was never something I'd ever think of myself ever doing. But then I remember my piece was personally about my mother. And I remember I was like, I could possibly do something about it. My mother is a manager over at Costco. She has been all my life. And I remember Chanel, like once I said that, she was like, yes, do it. And I was like, okay, let's go. And then I just kind of like went for it. And then boom. And then it happened. And it was something that I was like, that I would have never actually done in my life if it wasn't for ATC and this project.
Can we talk a little bit about that love letter to your mom though? Because it's beautiful. And that's the reason why I liked it so much, was because as an essential worker, I think sometimes we think essential worker means nurses, and it does. And, you know, firemen, policemen, but it also means our Costco workers, our grocery store workers. And so if you could talk a little bit more about why this piece was important for you and your mom and why you want to give that tribute to her.
Yeah, totally. So my mother, she is literally the strongest woman I've ever met in my life. She, once everything started like, you know, happening, she was very much, it was the first time I ever saw my mom like struggle like in the slightest, because she was very much like one of those people, like she was always working and then like always like, but still like the most lovingest mother like ever, you know? And creating that piece, I ended up the first night that we had our first meeting for CoronaLogs, I drove down to my mom's house to pick something up. And I started throwing around this option like, hey, maybe I'll write it about you. And then we just decided to like sit down. I put on my phone just to record. And then we just like had a 30-minute conversation about like this world and being a why am I forgetting the word? Essential employee, an essential worker, like in this space. And yeah, it was very much, I remember once the show got produced, I haven't gotten to tell you this yet, Chanel, but once she saw it, she ended up seeing it with 2 of her manager friends, and my mom called me crying. She loved it so much. Oh. So that was a really sweet moment. But yeah.
That's gorgeous. And I also love that you got to have a bonding moment with your mom talking about your school assignment, right? And if this assignment didn't exist, then that moment might not have happened. So that's really beautiful. And Robert, now Robert has had some great success, and I do want to talk about that, but can you talk about your pieces first, and then we'll let everybody know the great news.
Yeah. So for my 2 pieces, I like decided to stick to like closer than I usually do when I normally write, is like personal stuff, because it was like, as much as I wanted to like distance myself a little bit from everything, like the whole nature of the project of the CoronaLogs and everything like made me stick closer to home. So like for journal, which was basically just going over like all the dysfunction I've had with my brother, essentially, because like we're stuck, and then we have these 2 very different views on everything in the world. So like how much of that fighting affects you when you can't really escape anywhere. And then how like, and then for the regular Thursday night D&D game was essentially the opposite, because I did want to get like drama and comedy in there. So I knew I wanted to write 2 pieces for it. So like the Thursday was just the comedy of just like what's all the goofy things that happened as me and my friends tried to get together and adapt to Zoom to try to play this game that like really feels better when you play it in person, like this collaborative storytelling game. Like, how do you do that with each other over a screen? And you know, how much do you get comfortable, like, you know, talking to just like a 2D image of like, you know, your friends as you're trying to like pretend to be like wizards and stuff, you know? So like all that fun stuff and all the like fun, sometimes your microphone goes out, sometimes everybody just freezes and you're like, oh good, I'll just sit here and hope I don't have to restart my computer, you know, all that fun stuff that we've been dealing with that, like, you know, affects us every day now, it seems. Yeah.
Well, I liked your use of manipulating the medium, right? He used Zoom to tell this story of what we've all been through. Like even when I struggled to turn on my camera when we came back, because that's a very real part of all of our meetings day to day. And I felt like you captured that in Thursday Night D&D. But I also liked in the journal piece, you used a device of while you were writing, then you would cut to just words on screen. Can you talk about why you made that choice?
That was something my editor helped me with, because because actually filming, like when I got the camera and everything into my house, I was like, oh, the idea I have isn't going to work. So I was like, okay, how do I keep it simple so I don't like, because I don't have a lot of experience actually filming. Like I've acted before and I've written before, but like filming something is just completely out of my wheelhouse. So that was like a fun experience. But I was like, so how do I keep it simple for me? And then how do I keep it simple for the editor? And like, so I like I filmed like a couple takes and then I was like, okay. And then like he came back to me and it was like, well, I'm going to block it up with these like words. And I was like, oh, that's brilliant. That's a great way to like flesh everything out, because it's just not just me sitting at my desk writing. But like it helped, like it was like a fun experience of like learning how to edit for video, because I was like I think we mentioned earlier, like I'm such in a theater headspace that like it was a new experience to be like, okay, film, and then now I'm talking to an editor about how to edit this film, which doesn't happen when you just like think about writing a play. So it was like a great experience that way. And like, yeah, saved my, like, really helped elevate it from just watching a guy write, like I said, or, you know.
Now your Thursday Night D&D piece did receive a very prestigious recognition. Would you like to share with the people what that is?
Yes. I got nominated. Is that the right word? Into
invited.
Invited. That's what I was looking for. Invited. Yes. I was like, what is? It's like it's if my piece was invited to be performed at KCACTF, so the Kennedy Center Festival, which is super exciting. Like every time somebody mentions it, I get like super excited about it, you know, and I'm like, it's like a great honor to be a part of it, and like especially for this piece, and like because a lot of it was like group effort, so it's like it feels a little weird to be just because it feels like that piece was just part of something bigger. So I'm glad at least part of it is going and getting the like some recognition it deserves.
And so for people that don't know, which Kennedy Center are you talking about?
I'm going to ask Adriana to answer that one, because she has all of the language, whereas even I, after participating 2 years in a row, feel like I'm going to possibly mess it up.
So Kennedy Center in DC does have Kennedy Center. Oh goodness, I have to say the acronym first, KCACTF, which is Kennedy Center Theater Festival for college.
I got it.
There you
Kennedy
go.
Center American College Theater Festival. I wrote it down when I was waiting because I was afraid that I was going to have to be the one. So I'm sorry. And there you go. You got the acronym.
There you go. But yeah, so they have 8 different or 9 regions across the country, and each region goes and sees each other's things, and then shows can get nominated, performers can get nominated to be able to go and compete, or a show could be asked to go, and then in years past they've been able to go to DC and be performed at DC at the Kennedy Center in DC. So so yes, it is a prestigious award. So he will be, so Robert's Thursday night D&D will be at the Kennedy Center Region 8 festival this year. So
that's wonderful. And Ruth, can you give us a little bit of the specs of how many different participants?
Yeah, I was speaking to the region head, and it sounds like there were 113 productions evaluated for invitation, and only seven were actually brought to the table. So Robert's piece will come to Region 8, will get performed, and then who knows, when they do the national festival, maybe we'll have a reprisal. I'm gonna knock on all the wood to make sure the fairies are listening and are on our side right now, but that might be where we're headed next.
That is really exciting. How does that make you feel, Robert?
For one, yeah, it's like it's like exciting, like it's like I'm such a like reserved person that like anytime somebody like praises me, it just like makes me super flustered. I'm like, okay, yeah, I guess I did something really good, like, you know, like, so like I think I need to take a moment and be like, okay, I really did make something, you know, invitation worthy for like a giant festival, and just like kind of like accept that, you know, because like other than that, I'm just gonna get super flustered anytime somebody mentions it, you know. So
Please humble everyone. Thank you so much. Now, Josh and Tyler, can you tell me like how many hours do you think were spent in the editing bay as a whole to put this entire piece together? There were 12 different pieces that the students put together for the CoronaLogs. The entire presentation ended up being just a little over an hour. And so how long did it take you for your portion that you edited?
Oh goodness, I think it really depends on the piece. I mean, some of them were quite simple in terms of the editing, but very powerful in the storytelling. And then other ones, the students wanted to get a little bit more involved with all the things that they would like to see on the screen. So it was really all over the place, but definitely each one was exciting to edit in its own way, and certainly an interesting challenge, especially coming from students who are primarily used to be on the stage and not being used to being able to put the audience exactly where they want and show them exactly where they want.
And I think all the pieces were wonderful. I really genuinely don't have a favorite. Like I love them all. However, though, there were a couple that I thought were just shot more interestingly. And I want to give a shout out to the play Sick, in which the actress walked around inside a Costco, I believe it was Costco specifically, and it was shot from underneath the actress. And so you could see the mask on, and as she was weaving in and out throughout the different aisles, and you could see the different aisles panning past her, or the ceiling panning past her, she was having an inner dialogue the entire time about what it was like being scared to be inside of a Costco, worried that you were going to possibly get sick or catch something. Did any of you guys edit that one in particular, Tyler or Josh?
That was actually the one piece out of the 12 that I ended up doing. And what was cool about that is because she actually gave me like a ton of that footage of her like walking through the store. And then she gave me a voiceover of just her doing that monologue. And I just took her script and everything that she gave me. And really all she had told me kind of was like, can you just help tell the story? And I was like, okay, so what's going on? So I took all that footage and I like sped it up because I wanted it to be like, oh, this is like a collection of random thoughts that she has throughout her whole visit, like all kind of condensed into this portion. And it took me like, that was the only piece that I did. So it took me, I want to say like 4 hours. And I really lucked out because I finished it and I sent it off to her, Callie, and the response was, this is better than I thought. And thank you for helping tell the story. And I was like, well, cool. And then I sent it off to Ruth and I was like, I guess my work here is done.
Well, I think that's powerful to know that even editing can help really shift the the success of your story, right? When I was in broadcast journalism and film school, they'd always say become friends with your editor or your camera guy because they have the power to make you look real stupid on film. And I've always like taken that to heart. Like you really want to thank the people that are making you look good, and that includes your editing team. So thank you so much, Josh and Tyler, for all of your hard work. I want to put Sean on the spot for a moment. So for our guest, Sean is an incredible playwright. I mean, truly. And is there any wisdom as the last part of our master class? Is there any wisdom that you can impart on our young playwrights of your process and what developing new work is like for you?
That, you know, I think I love always hearing about like the dangerously honest stories that people are telling, right? You know, they always say if you want to write a good play, you know, write something that you're scared to tell the audience about, and if you want to write a great play, write something that you're scared to tell yourself about, right? And so I really feel like in terms of people dealing with these you know, these real personal things. Elaine Romero all the time, our playwright in residence, says, if you don't feel like a little embarrassed by the end of your play, then you didn't do it right. You know, like you didn't risk enough to put it into it. And so what I really loved about the work that everybody did was it really felt like at a time that, you know, it could have been played cool and it could have been played just for jokes, but there's a lot of the anxiety that people live with on a daily basis being processed. And I think, what's amazing, right, as Chanel said about this moment, is there's probably never been a time that we all collectively are experiencing something at the same time worldwide, right? And so to really watch what these young people are processing and putting through and being brave in putting it out there, right? I mean, playwriting is I think it's the bravest of all of the art forms that we have to do. You know, when you're a playwright and you put it out there, like it's you, this was your idea. You called everyone together to start this. Like you have the most skin in the game to be able to do it. And so I think what I'm so impressed by all these young people is like, they took that moment and they really risked something to put it out there into the world and to really share some of themselves. And I think that comes through, right, in terms of what it is. And I think, you know, that's what I was inspired by in terms of watching them, was just to see like, oh my God, they took this moment and they ran with it and they really put it out there and they were unafraid to be honest and to be dangerous in terms of what that moment is. And I feel like that comes through in the work. And so that's, I think, what makes great playwrights, you know, and I think like everyone that was involved in this has the ability to be a great playwright because they were unafraid in this moment. And I think that's always what we want to know, right, to be a part of it. So that's what I took away. But I will say, Chanel, so I've heard all of this, like I'm sold. Where do I see this? Where do I see this amazing piece of work that everybody has been hyping?
So I'm incredibly excited to share that next week during this slot. So make sure you come back. This will be the other half of our doubleheader for the CoronaLogs. We are actually going to show in the entire compilation from start to finish during this slot. We are so excited because you'll get to see, of course, the pieces that Nick and Robert have created, but then you're going to see so much more. And it's really a collaborative effort. You will see how hard these students truly worked and the breadth and the diversity in the work that is also given. There are things that are heartbreaking, the things that are really, really funny and also clever, things that are shot interestingly. There's one that's even about like the apocalypse, and it's like an allegory for what's going on right now. Like there's so many really interesting and unique ways that our students have really well, you're not getting rid of me, so I'm referring to you as like I teach at MCC as well, but I'm just so proud of all the work that y'all have done, truly. And then I'm excited about how this continues to evolve. So yes, this year is the CoronaLogs. So then what is it next year, right? Mm-hmm. This partnership is not going anywhere. I'm excited to see how we build on this program. And I do want to ask really quickly for our two students, why did you choose to take this class? Because you got a credit, right? You paid to be a part of the class or scholarship into the class. So, you decided to make a choice to be a part of this process. What was it for you that made you say, I absolutely have to do this?
Okay, my reason is kind of a little interesting. So I'm applying to a bunch of different. I'm applying to colleges right now to transfer to get my bachelor's, and there was a creative writing sample requirement for some of my pieces, and I remember we had this support group that we had, and I remember looking to Robert and saying, Robert, what am I supposed to do? I have never touched any sort of play in any sort of creative writing piece like since high school. And then this idea started coming around. And then I also work as a marketing assistant for MCC, and I started getting the information about all the different like guest artists we were having. I was like, okay, I'm doing it. We're doing it. We're just diving into it.
That's
so, yeah.
Thank you. And Robert?
Like I said earlier, I've been at this a long time. So I was like hemming and hawing, like, do I really want to take another class at MCC? Like, I've been doing this for like 5 or 6 years now. And then eventually I got a text from Ruth that said, like, it essentially boiled down to like, you really should do this. I was like, I know I should. So that's why like ultimately, like, I just needed somebody to like shove me back into the game again. Well, so yeah. And I'm glad I did. Yeah.
So we always ask every guest that comes on, what is a word that they are feeling at this moment, or, you know, a word that they want to leave with all of us? And we'd love to do that. We'd run through all of them for all of our guests, for all of you that's here. So do you each have a word that you want to share with us about this experience or just about this moment that we're here?
I'm actually going to go first, if that's okay.
Sure.
And normally I don't give a word, but today I'm going to say proud. Absolutely so proud of all of the work that y'all have done for this beautiful partnership and collaboration. And I'm just really excited and proud of this work and proud to share it with all of our patrons next week.
Who wants
I'll
to go?
throw out the word resilience and say that this process was a testament to the theater arts and how resilient it has been throughout this pandemic, but also our students and how emotionally agile they've had to become in order to survive and thrive at this time.
Great. Adriana?
I'm going to go with collaboration. Just one of my favorites. And I just think theater doesn't exist without it. And this definitely was an example of it.
Great. Josh, voice of Josh?
Creative is my word. Certainly, as Ruth was talking about earlier, this is something new for the department and as well as the students.
Great. Tyler?
I think adaptability is the one that really works for me, because like this was a whole format that nobody has really like been in before. And then like me and the other people on the editing team, like editing isn't necessarily something that we did before this fall either. And now we have all these new experiences, and plus adapting all of our own emotions into a show, you know?
Great. And Robert?
I'm gonna go with exciting, because it's just been like a fun ride from, well, the ups and downs and just trying to pull from your own life experience and all the writing and acting and all the fun stuff that's been along the way. So yeah, it's just been fun.
And Nick?
I'm gonna go with brave, because Sean, like you said, definitely this was like, it's so much different to write work than like perform or design. It was such a weird thing. I remember I was so scared, like even like once it started getting like produced, actually I was like, oh no, this was scary. But like, yeah, that.
And Sean, how about your word?
You know, I guess my word is trust, because I look at all the thing that everybody did, and I can only imagine the amount of trust that everybody had to put to be able to say, like, I'm going to put out my own work about me, and that other people are going to take it and run with it and be able to put it. And then, you know, I think to Nick's point, like it is scary. I mean, I feel like everybody should have to be a playwright for one, moment, because you will understand why playwrights are the most skittish people you've ever met in your life, because you realize like they're risking something every day, putting it out there. You know, as a director, you're kind of doing the best you can with the material. With an actor or a lighting designer or a sound designer, you're doing the best with the things you had. When you're the writer, you're the world creator. And that and then you have to let other people interpret your words to put it out there. So when it's about you, that requires the deepest trust to be able to put it out. And so I think for all of these brave artists to have shared their work with the world now, I think it shows me a lot of like what they believe in the future and what it could be for all of us. And so I really take that to heart.
Well, thank you, Sean. And thank you to all of our MCC guests. We're so glad to have you. And we are so excited to share our work again with all of our audience next week. So please feel free to share that. Have your friends come and join us next week when we watch the live stream of the CoronaLogs. So thank you so much for being our guest. And thank you for coming. We appreciate you all so much.
Thank you all so much for being here.
Thank you, ATC family.
Thank you, guys.
Wow, Sean, how cool.
This is your call board for January 15th through the 21st. Hi, I'm Will Rogers, Community Engagement Manager for Arizona Theater Company, and thank you so much for joining us today. We're so glad to have you. We are going to head right on over to the education station, where I believe we have an ATC teen waiting to tell us what's going on in the Department of Learning and Education.
Howdy, I'm Oscar. I'm the Community Project Coordinator on the ATC Teen Student Council. I wanted to let all of you know about some upcoming events we have this next month. On Friday, February 5th, we'll be holding our monthly Play Readers Book Club from 3 o'clock to 4:30 p.m. If you'd like to get involved, you'll be sent either one or possibly two plays to discuss with other ATC teens. On Friday, February 12th, also from 3 o'clock to 4:30 p.m., we'll be holding Small Project Friday. Small Project Friday is a new program where teen artists can discuss and get feedback on their project ideas. If you'd like to get in touch with ATC Teen, you can go to the ATC Teen section of the Arizona Theater Company website, or look on Instagram at ATC Education. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
All right. As I said, we encourage you to check out our website for a full list of what's going on and how to participate in our education and learning events and classes. Now, let's find out what's going on in theaters in Arizona. In Phoenix, our friends over at Mesa Community College have Jane Eyre, a musical drama, playing through this weekend, and it's streaming only, so check out those times and ways to access that stream online. And Don Bluth Front Row Theater has the one-man show Orson Welles by Michael B. Drucksmann, directed by Lee Cooley, and starring Keith Hall. That plays January 28th through March 6th, and there are COVID-19 protocols observed. Coming up on future episodes of Hang and Focus Live with Sean Daniels, on January 22nd, next week, we'll be screening CoronaLogs. And on January 29th, we'll close out the month with a conversation with ATC Playwright-in-Residence, Elaine Romero, on the upcoming Romero Fest. Well, that's all for this week, but we hope you have a happy, healthy, and safe Martin Luther King Day. Perhaps it could be a day of service. And see.